Before we begin, allow me a quick word on technique. What did I mean when I said in the previous Chopin episode that I can't really play this last set of 6 very, very difficult Chopin preludes? Now, I'm pretty sure ever since human beings have been human beings, every musician of note has had something to say about technique and the difference between technique and musicality. You'll hear phrases like, mostly phrases like so-and-so plays very well, very technically, but their music lacks soul. Conversely, you might occasionally hear something like, so-and-so plays beautifully, I love their music, but I don't know, they make too many mistakes, or maybe their technique could be a little bit better. For what it's worth, let me add another drop of water in the ocean of discourse on this topic and say that it is a false dichotomy between technique and musicality. They really are the same thing, again, my opinion. Not even two sides of the same coin. I really mean they are the same thing. You can't have one without the other. We don't create music, sound waves, vibrations in the air just by thinking them. There must be something technical there. So you can't create music without first doing something technical. You can't make even Twinkle Twinkle Little Star without the technique of putting your hands on the piano or whatever instrument and moving your hands. Conversely, you can't move your fingers on the piano or whatever instrument without making music. I mean, maybe you don't particularly like that music, maybe those vibrations in the air aren't all that great, but you still made music. So again, they're not even two sides of the same coin, and they're definitely not separate things. In my opinion, they are one and the same. With that in mind, the question that I posed at the beginning, why can't I play this last set of 6 preludes? It's a pretty silly question and a pretty simple answer. I mean, I just don't like the sound, the music that I make. A more interesting question is why? Why can't I play and make the music the way that I hear it in my head, the way that I like it, for this set of 6 very difficult Chopin preludes? The answer to that is a little more interesting, and to answer that, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a new piano player. I don't know how many of you are actual piano teachers, especially teachers of beginners, but this is true for really any instrument. It is so just mind-bogglingly difficult for a new musician to do just the most basic, simple things. Just simply putting your hand on the piano and wriggling your fingers in some way to approximate the most simple of songs is very, 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 very difficult. And that's just the beginning. Just moving your fingers, holding your hand like this, and kind of pushing down the right keys in the right order and in the right rhythm is barely the beginning. After that enormous amount of difficulty, that big hurdle, you then have to have enough fine control of your hand, of the whole apparatus, intent, muscle coordination to shape the music that you play to your liking. So it's difficult enough just to, let's talk about these Chopin preludes. Let's talk about the F sharp one, the minor one that I start with. Just wriggling my fingers to more or less do this up to speed is very, very difficult. On top of that, to wriggle my fingers in such a way that I actually shape the music is just beyond me. To not even mention the difficulty of not having your hands get too tired. We'll talk about that, especially in some of the other preludes. So that's why I can't play them, because I'm still working on this. Again, not interaction between technique and musicality, but just the technique, the music that I make here is just very difficult. It's very difficult to wriggle your fingers and make this music sound the way that I want to. But with all this being said, I do still think I have something interesting to say about this set of 6 Chopin preludes, and at the very least put you on what I think is the right path to start being able to play them. And if you play them a lot slower, you can actually, I mean, I can play them pretty slowly, but it's the speed, that's the difficulty. So let's dive into it. I do like this F sharp minor prelude to start with because it's the most, I don't want to say the easiest because they're all difficult, but I think it's the most it's the easiest one to build up from first principles. In pretty much all of the other ones, right from the beginning, Chopin hits you with just enormous, enormous technical difficulty, wriggling your fingers difficulty. But with this one, we're going to see how we can slowly build it up. So you can even start to think about how Chopin composed this. I mean, the first thing to do is melody and harmony. I know this is very reductionist, but it is what it is. So this is the beginning. We have this very, not melodramatic, not even apocalyptic, I don't know what to call it, a very agitated melody, to use the phrasing of the indication here that Chopin wrote. I think Chopin wrote it. And this melody is sustained by a very basic harmony. We've got the 1 minor. And then before going to the dominant, the C-sharp 7, we use the diminished 7th that acts as the dominant. Okay? 1, diminished 5 to the 5. And notice something interesting, how after the first 2 chords, the melody really leans in to these dissonant notes. So on this diminished 7th chord that acts as the C-sharp dominant, this F sharp is very, very dissonant with this F. We lean into it, but then the short note, this F, is part of the chord. And the same thing happens here on the dominant chord on the C-sharp 7. We lean into the long note of this A before resolving to the C-sharp. I know there's a word for this. It's not a leading note, it's not butter note. I don't know, I know there's a word for it, where we lean into a slightly different note that's very dissonant before resolving to the actual note. Okay, let's start shaping this, this difficult piece. The next thing that I think is worth doing is let's make the left hand interesting. So instead of chords, Chopin hits us with this pretty romantic repertoire sketching out of a chord that we've seen this a lot. I mean, you see this in this motion, which we talked about before, is very bog standard romantic repertoire stuff. So bog standard, in fact, that well, I'm not going to spend time really talking about it. If you don't have the technique required to do this rocking on usually the 3rd finger, but sometimes on the 2nd as well, if the left hand here in this piece is really beyond you, you need to go back to basics or start the basics so that it's easy to have this rocking motion, even in the very difficult shape. So near the end, this is a pretty big jump. This really is a standard building block that you need to already have. So I'm not going to spend time talking about it. I've already given you a bit of a hint, though, as I have every time this has been brought up in the Amateur Hour series. It's about a rocking motion, okay? It's a rocking motion in these 2 fingers, unless you have a big enough hand that you can reach these tenths with 2 fingers here. But nobody does that. I mean, I guess Rachmaninoff did. Okay, so once you've done this, the melody with a more interesting left hand, let's shore up the rhythm, and this is where things really start to get difficult. Forget about the 32nd notes over here. Let's just do 16th notes, okay? So for every beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's count the 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Play the melody as 16ths. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Combining this with the left hand allows you to do 2 things. First of all, you start to get a feel for the actual rhythm of the piece. It's very easy to feel it in 3-1, And, sorry, well, actually, I kind of forgot how to feel it in the wrong way. The point is to really, the melody, to have it grounded in 16th notes. So the left hand does have this triplet over here, but the right hand has this dotted 8th note. So that's one thing it helps you do. Excuse me. Excuse me, technical difficulties over there. Don't play it like this, though. The second thing that this is going to force you to do, and it's really the more important part, because I'm assuming 3s against 2s should be pretty easy by the time you get to this piece, is to make sure that you have a pretty light thumb when you're not playing the melody, to really emphasize the thumb only when needed. In fact, because the thumb pretty much always just plays the melody, I sometimes do this part of practicing where I play the other 2 16th notes with my pinky. Let me play them a bit louder so you can hear them. I wouldn't dwell too much on this way of practicing. More important is playing with the 32nd notes. But I think this is a good stepping stone so that you start to get a feel for the polyrhythm and for where the short note of the melody resides. Even though the nice thing about this piece is to really play around with the short long. I mean, you really shouldn't be playing this robotically where every long note is a dotted 8th and every short note is a 16th note. There's really a gamut between that level and maybe playing them more like triplets. 1, 2, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. But it helps at the beginning to really have a more strict understanding of the way it works. The most important way to practice this, and the most difficult, is the following: to actually play with the 32nd notes and to feel the 4 against 3. So first of all, another prerequisite, you really should be able to play 4 against 3s. I'm still working on it. It's getting better and better, but it's still something that should be pretty soon get to the point where it's like 2s against 3s, which are pretty much second nature. I forget in which episode I talked about polyrhythms, if they're kind of new to you. It might have been the F-sharp Prelude, but more likely probably the F major Prelude, both of the Chopin ones. In any case, what I suggest doing is the following. Play tremolo octaves in 32nd notes. This is going to do 2 things for you. First of all, the rhythm. It will help you hear the 32nd notes, the 4 against 3s, right? The left hand has your triplet, while the right hand has the 4s, the 32nd notes. But not just that, it will also force you, well, you need to be careful about this, but it will teach you, it will let you study having a light pinky. One of the most difficult things about this piece is at the end of each shape, at the end of the short note, and right after the beginning of the long note, we have the pinky playing an octave above. If you're not careful and your pinky's too loud, it really it ruins the feeling of the melody. This doo 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 doo. If you're just hearing this, playing with this octave tremolos, especially once you're getting up to speed, that's really where the difficulty is. It will let you study this and focus on having a light pinky. In fact, sometimes I study this without tremolos everywhere, tremolo just at the end so I can focus on these jumps, these octaves. See, that one was a bit loud. Sometimes I barely played the octave above at all. It's something really very, very important to do, have a light pinky. This 4 against 3, this octave tremolo, I think is the most important part of studying this piece. But it's not everything. Before we talk about how we add all these seemingly random notes, just so many notes, just look at the page. It hurts your eyes looking at it. Briefly, let's talk about how to learn. We're not going to do a harmonic analysis. I mean, we already did at the beginning. What I want to point out is that it's actually very easy to learn this piece. It's really not as hard as it seems just looking at it. With one exception, we'll come back to that in just a second, just a minute. If you look at the left hand, the harmony should be very obvious. It's very clear what chords we're playing over here, especially if you add in the right hand melody with the thumb. Just be aware that there will be these cases where the long note in the melody is one of these, whatever, I forget the name of them, these dissonant notes that resolve, okay? So over here, you might be going, oh, what chord is this? But resolve it down here and you'll see that this is a diminished 7, and same with the next chord. You look at the left hand, you're like, oh, that's a C sharp 7, but the right hand has this A. Forget about the A. It's one of those dissonant notes that resolves to this G sharp, which is part of the C sharp major chord, the C sharp 7 chord. So writing down every chord is going to be very, very simple. It's not difficult at all. What might seem a bit more difficult is what are all these 30-second notes over there. But notice, we're going to just keep focusing on the beginning here. Notice how actually we're just sketching out that chord. So we're on an F sharp minor, and these 30-second notes, except for these 2 notes at the beginning, which surround the target note of A, okay, A is part of F sharp minor. If you hold down all the notes, what do we have here? This is just an F sharp minor. Okay? The 2 weird notes, the 2 notes out, are this G sharp and this B, which surround the target note. There's a name for this as well. I forget what it's called. It happens in jazz a lot when we're targeting a note and we're hitting it with 2 notes around it. We've seen this in the F sharp minor prelude, F sharp major prelude as well. Right? We have an F sharp major, but we're targeting this F sharp with these 2 surrounded notes. Same thing over here. And in fact, in every single one of these chords, every quarter note, you will notice that no matter how strange it might seem, we are targeting some note that's part of the chord, and then the rest of the notes in the 30-second notes are just part of the chord. So it should be pretty easy to just jam in your brain all of these seemingly random notes, because they're really not random, there's just a lot of them. So if you remember the harmony, oh, something's beeping. If you remember the harmony, 1 second, what is beeping? All right, sorry about that. Things happening in the house. Where were we? So the only thing you really need to do is to memorize the harmony, the series of chords, which is a little difficult. I mean, I think at one point we're getting a B flat major. Please tell me what B flat major has to do with the key of F sharp minor. But it won't be all that difficult. With a little bit of just memorization, you'll memorize the series of chords, and then everything just falls into place. The last thing I want to mention is, well, okay, we've done these octave tremolos. How do we move from that to actually playing the piece as it's written? And here, unfortunately, we'll have a theme for all of these 6 preludes. I'm not sure I have too much to say, but let me try. I think the most difficult part about playing these notes is that it's your hand often moves. It feels like it gets blocked by these black keys. Here it's okay. At the beginning it's okay. But look over here. Where our hand is over here, then we have to move with the fourth finger between these two keys. And this is just one example. I think the most important thing to do as you're playing the piece the way it's written in the right hand is to be aware of when you need to move your hand out so that you don't get blocked by the black keys, and when it's okay to keep your hand in. So, but of course, if you're moving your hand way too often, in, out, it becomes difficult, especially up to speed. But I do think that's important. So look at this. I'm inside of the key bed. And you see how after this third chord, when I moved over here, my hand is out, and then I move it back in. I think this is one of the most important things to do. The rest you can apply from the previous techniques, the previous studies that we talked about. So with this tremolo, to having a light pinky, to feeling the triplets in the left hand. All of these things you can apply from the previous studies. The only new thing when you're playing the way it's written is being aware of where your hand is in the key bed, out or in. And that's kind of it, I think. Again, I can't play this piece terribly well, definitely not up to tempo, but I think these tips that I've given you can help you just put you on the right path. It's just such a beautiful piece, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, even if you only play it like this, it sounds beautiful and anybody would love it. Well, that's it. Welcome to the end of Amateur Hour. We're going to do 5 more of these Chopin Preludes. Hopefully I'll have interesting things to say about all of them, but we'll see. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a good one.